Año Nuevo. Los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawaii, Alaska y California y con entrega.
No question about that. It's supported by you, our listeners, through patreon.com/NQAT pod, where you can get access to our weekly ad-free bonus episode talking about football around the Premier League and Europe. Welcome to No Question About That. This is the Weekend Pod with me, Ed, and today Tom reviewing Leeds 1, United 1. Don't know how to think about this one, Tom. Are we relieved because everyone thought we'd get battered?
Yeah, Leeds have been reasonably good recently. I think if you look at the last 5 games, they're one of the form teams.
They did have good run last 5 games, for sure, yeah. At home, they're good.
But I looked at the discourse on Blue Sky today in the first half, and yeah, the expectations fallen so much that in the first half we were like, oh, if we're actually playing all right here, we're actually doing okay away against the 16th best team in the league. And at that point, I think we'd had 1 shot on target after their keeper made a nice save from a corner. Yeah, it was kind of to be expected, I think. From me, I think it was fine, but my heart sank before the game when I saw it was 5 at the back again.
5 at the back. You can maybe 2 defenders in front and another one in the front 3. It was an interesting selection. I mean, I know Ruben doesn't have many choices. I think 6 of the bench were under 21 today. So I do wonder, though, with that Xerxes cameo, should we call it, which was some of his best football at United, in a deeper role with players around him, that's where he's best. He's definitely not a number 9. And is he profiled? Profiled, one of those tactico words, isn't it? Profiled better than Dorgu in the front 3 in one of the 10 roles? Probably. I mean, not that too many United fans would have gone, yeah, we want Josh Xerxes in the team before the game, because he's not been very good, basically, during his time. And I suppose Dorgu did perform okay for bits of the Newcastle game, scored a goal and so on before he went back to left back, and the following game was crap again. I find it hard to know what to make of this game because, as you say, expectations have been so lowered. The Blue Sky, your Blue Sky vibe there is in contrast to the culture war that normally happens on Twitter, which is now on the, depending on which side of this culture war you're on, it's like, see, told you everything's getting better and you said we'd get smashed before the game and now you're going to pretend you didn't say that. I'm paraphrasing the vibe. It's just like, just ram home that culture war. It's always the same.
But I think on Blue Sky it's a bit nicer, and maybe too nice, to be fair. We're probably all a bit too gentle with each other, and even when we're being horrible. It's normally just libs having to go at each other, isn't it? It's true. Even when we're being horrible, we're still being nice at the same time. It's just passive aggressive rather than like fully aggressive.
Yeah, interesting stuff. It had a moment, but never really took off as a kind of football community. At least I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's full of American liberals.
Exactly, like who's most pure with their left-wing politics. That's the usual stuff going on.
Pretty much.
United now, I mean, obviously so many players out, 3 at AFCON, Bruno out, injuries to De Ligt and Maguire and Mainu and others, and so Ruben doesn't have a lot of choices, but I just, this game sort of encapsulated the current debate about Amorim, didn't he? You get this specialist manager who's like so completely welded to his formation, system and principles, and it's totally anachronistic to the history of the club or what the management, the leadership, executive team said they were going to do in terms of style of play and doing that top down and stuff like that. And he goes with his usual 5 at the back formation, which has been disappointing 9 times out of 10. And then as soon as he switches it up to a 4-4-2 after going behind, it's immediately better. again. It's just immediately better. And
I know.
I mean, it's got to the point. We've got the reasonably positive result today, of course. Perhaps a better performance than many expected. We're in 4th or 5th or whatever it is. I can't remember now. 4th, 5th or 6th, something like that, depending on when you're listening to this and what the other results are on Sunday.
It's true.
And yet, it's hard to... The discourse around United this week has been Amorim versus Wilcox versus the management. Will they buy players for him? He was grumpy in his press conference. It feels sort of like the beginning of the end, and probably the only way to stop that in the summer is to have a good second half of the season, get into a European place, absolute minimum, and show some progress in terms of style of football. And and I think that's the difficult thing, isn't it? What is his formation, system, style of football? How much has he given up just to get short-term results? What are we actually building towards now? Because I don't know what it is anymore. And so muddled on the pitch, muddled off the pitch, expectations completely lowered. What are we to make of all this?
It is just a complete mess at the moment. And the worst reflection on Amorim is when we move to a 4 at the back. We've been playing the system for 12 months now with 5 at the back. And then we've played probably about 90 minutes or so this season with 4 at the back. And in that 90 minutes, we've looked as good as we've ever looked. Like in the last 25 minutes, 30 minutes of today, when Xerxes came on, the amount of times we got in behind, the amount of chances we got. And it's kind of football basics, really. You're just putting more people in the other end of the pitch, and therefore they're closer to each other to work. They've got the amount of times where Šeško picks up the ball and he holds off the defender and then he makes like a touch or two, and then he's got nothing around him because he's got 5 players behind him. You've got Casemiro and Ugarte. And then as soon as Xerxes comes on and plays a little bit closer to him, them two's link-up play was great today. And then also having the outlet of Dorgu just to the right. They were all in about a 10-yard vicinity of each other.
Yeah.
And therefore they were able to link and actually not have to pick up the ball with about 20 yards, with no one within 20 yards. And that's the worst thing about this for me. That it's great that we're actually looking a little bit better in the 4 at the back, but you've been trying to get this system to work for so long, and
it
how can we look? And it never has. And then we go to 4 at the back and it looks better immediately. It's really not great.
It's a pretty damning indictment, both of leadership and what they thought they were doing, hiring this kind of coach, with this squad, right? And then knowing that they wouldn't have the finances to completely revamp it in a couple of windows, right? So it's Manchester United. You can't go a year with just 13 wins and go, this is all right. It's never going to lead to anything other than massive outside pressure, to which Amorim has responded, right? First, by going very direct in the build-up in the early part of the season, changing how they press, changing player roles and positions to try and get some kind of hold-on games, which is sporadic, and latterly going to a 4. And as you say, first half against Bournemouth, first half against Newcastle. Who else did we go to a 4 against? Part of the Wolves game, not all of it.
And then today.
And then part of today. But if he's going to do that, why Amorim? And we bought a coach for a certain kind of thing. You could say, okay, it's for the principles and the style rather than the formation, but that we hired him to go and build these things. But why him? Because, there literally are 100 other managers in European football that could have got 13 wins with this squad. So, and if he's going to change it, why? What were we building towards? And I know this is all bigger picture stuff and it's not really about the game, but it's kind of all the mess off it. And the decision-making, both in leadership and the coach, leads to the mess on it. And that's why we're going on the 15th best side in the Premier League and going, thank fuck we got away with a draw.
I know. And also I feel like it's a damning indictment of Amorim today that as soon as we go 1-0 behind, he brings Xerxes on for Euro. And I'm thinking at that point, I'm like, okay, that's an attacking sub. It's the right thing to do. But also, if we wanted to win the game today, maybe that should have been the team to start the game. And Xerxes didn't play well in midweek. But you're just thinking, if you play 4-2-3-1 and then get those players higher, and the personnel's not great, but you're just thinking like this, the risk reward is there. Like just I don't know. He's very risk averse, obviously,
he is, yeah.
and I think that's another damning indictment that he brings that on. It changes the game, but then you're like, well, why didn't this start like that? Especially when we've seen evidence in the last few games that actually 4 at the back does get players higher. It does mean that, because I can see why, and it has been shown this season when we have our best players on the pitch and in Mbumo, and we have Ahmad, the 5 can work because we've got the pace in behind, we've got the pace on the ball, we've got those players who have the ability to link up. But then when you lose those players, you need more players in the further positions to actually kind of benefit from numbers rather than quality. It would help matters, like we saw today when actually we did get the numbers in there. The individual quality wasn't as necessary because we had numbers in attack.
Right.
But
yeah,
I think that's quite simple maths, but I think that's how I would have gone today from the start. And I think it just speaks to Amorim generally that he's not happy with the draw, but like I'm gonna be stable foundations first and then try and win the game later.
Well, I think that's the thing when he's got the 5 at the back, and so much of what we do is in wide areas, and then the final ball is coming in from Dorgu or Dallo or Shaw, who can put a decent ball in, but seems to have fallen into the same trap sometimes, right? Because he's playing a wing back today. Then you've got a real problem, and it's just obvious that when Ahmad is in there, he makes up an extra attacker if he's at wing back, and United just have more quality in the final third. And you look back at the Sporting side, and they were so physically and technically dominant in the Liga. What's it called? Liga NOS? Primera Liga?
Yeah, NOS.
Oh, yeah, I forget now. That and then when Amorim was in those big games in European football, he went quite defensive, didn't he? And I think that's fooled some of us into thinking, he can produce this kind of attacking side. And in those big Champions League games where Sporting obviously had a financial disadvantage, he just went a bit pragmatic. But it turns out that he views the Premier League as being those big Champions League games versus a Sporting side, right? And his instinct all of the time is to be defensive, and that is just diametrically opposed to anything in Manchester United's history. And it's someone said to me on Twitter, I think it was, the old heads see him as Sexton Mark II, and that is not a compliment, and Sexton was right at the earliest part of me watching a lot of football, so I don't remember him brilliantly. He was late 70s, early 80s, so, I was small. And you weren't even a twinkle in the milkman's eye, were you? or for those of us watching on YouTube, a twinkle in Travis Head's eye, more like, given your tash you've got there.
That's it. Yes, maybe it is. That'd be quite a nice dad to have, to be fair. A little bit of money, finally.
He's probably a solid bloke. I don't know whether maybe he isn't.
He's got money, and that's all that matters.
He's a good player. He's a very good player. Anyway, completely lost the run of myself there. But just having those more attacking players in the final third, it's obvious, just makes so much of a difference. And that's why switching to 4 at the back in a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1 gets more attacking players of quality into the final areas, and they can show. And that's why it looks better, right? So, and I just don't know where Amorim goes from here, because he's in job protection mode at the moment. And yet you look at the table and go, we're 5th or 6th or whatever it is, had a chance to go 4th today with a win. Champions League is sort of the prize. It's there, isn't it? It's almost worth grasping. But to what ends, right? Are we because I just don't know anymore, What is Amorim? Is he the attacking coach that was in, the Sporting domestic games? Is he the defensive coach in those Champions League games? Is he the mostly defensive coach that he's been at United, except, the more defenders we have on the pitch, the worse we seem to defend sometimes. So, yeah, frustrating sometimes, often.
Yeah, I'm definitely a skeptic rather than an Amorim out guy. It just gets to a point, though, when it's difficult to, like you say, really difficult to see where this is going. but also feels difficult to defend him a lot of the time as well, because there's the evidence that we're seeing that there's so little positive evidence out there from his press conferences, which I really, I guess, detest in some respects. It was so much, because I felt like when we first had Amorim, we got brutal honesty, but now it feels like I'm being gaslit most of the time when I hear the interviews after the game, or I see the interviews before the game. And he was talking today before the game about how in midweek against Wolves we created a lot of chances. We had an XG of less than 1 against the team who before that game hadn't even won a game this season and had 2 points in the league. He talks after the games about, this is all we could do, and you're thinking, no, his subs. I know we didn't have much on the bench today, so I'm not really talking about today, but his subs just generally make the game worse than usually make the game better. His formation from the start, the whole overall philosophy of his game, there's so little, like there's so few positives out there. Even like the young players not being brought through, a Mainu situation and the Garnacho situation, which I agreed with at the time, and the Rashford situation. You think back to things that have happened, and when we took the manager's side, and it feels like a catalogue of negatives and things that he's done wrong. And you look to today and you think, yeah, fine point. And you look to the table, like you say, and fine. But it's just, when you actually watch the game and you watch what's being created here, it's just
yes, there's not much, is there? Yeah,
it's so mediocre from game to game, and it's so, every game's like built on decided on a coin toss. Like how many chances were created today for either team? Like either team could have won it. That guy with a left-footed shot at the end could have gone into the top corner. Šeško should have scored late in the game.
Should have scored, probably. Šeško, yeah.
They hit the post in the first half. We hit the post in the second half. So many games are like this. That Newcastle game a couple of games ago where we shouldn't have won, but we won. Wolves in midweek where we potentially could have won at the end. This started to happen under Ten Hag, where like every game was decided by a moment. And that's what it is like under Amorim. And it's like, yeah, we're competitive in most games, but that's kind of it. We've seen a purple patch of about 3 or 4 games this season, but that, in 12 months, that's kind of all we've seen.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time, 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
Yeah, I do want to get onto today's actual game, but I think I asked the question on Twitter, like, what are the outstanding games under Ten Hag, Amorim? What are the outstanding games under Amorim? And there's just almost none, right? Where have United played great for 90 minutes? And people were saying, like, the Everton 4-0. Yeah, that was his second game. I don't know whether we're giving him credit for that. Liverpool away, but it's very specific. 40% long balls and took advantage. And Arne Slot moaning about the long balls afterwards and all of that. Great result, obviously fantastic result, but not the kind of football we expect from United. And we're just looking for that. And as you say, so few green shoots of hope in any of those 60-odd games now. Of course the pressure's on, and of course he reacts to that. Anyway, today's actual game, United being competitive and all of that, and then Leeds scored the goal. I wasn't sure whether Heaven got himself in the wrong position or just started out slowly, because he's not slow, is he, Heaven? I thought he had a good game today.
I didn't think he was slow, no.
I mean, I really like his progress. He didn't play much in the first sort of third of the season. He's very good on the ball. He's very aggressive. He's quick enough. He likes doing the box defending, but he's a really good passer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's having a good season, or good last 8 games or whatever it is since he came in. Yoro started today. He's had a bit of a difficult season. I mean, I think his ceiling is massively high. I just want him to be more aggressive. You should look over at Aiden Heaven and go, do that. Just be a bit more front foot. Anyway, the goal, I don't know how Aronson managed to sprint past them. Twitter tells me he's quick. I don't know. Whenever I've seen Brendan Aronson before, I thought, good competitive player, but, touch of quality less than a top team would take. Yeah. But he finished well, sprinted through, finished well. And I was looking at that guy. I was just trying to compose the tweet with my fat fingers. By the time United scored the equaliser, brought on Xerxes and scored within a couple of minutes. And I was just tweeting, oh dear, we're down. Don't know how we're going to get back into this with eight defensive players on the pitch, not creating good enough chances. And of course, it all changed in 2 minutes.
Yeah, the goal was really weird, wasn't it? It felt like he didn't know that he was there. And therefore, it took him a couple of moments, which was too late, to get into sprinting stride. And therefore, he was just too far behind when he got into stride. And I guess if Aronson's running forward at full speed compared to Aiden Heaven, who's turning round to run, this, obviously the start is going to be a bit slower. But it did just look like he was. It's a weird goal, because the way you watch it, you're like, surely something's gone wrong there. That's way too easy for him to have got there. And I think that is Heaven's fault. And I think there have been a couple of occasions where, obviously the Bournemouth game, where there's a couple of goals where I think he was at fault for. And there are going to be those moments with him. He's a 19-year-old defender. And I think the same with Yoro. There are going to be these moments where, if you look at the best defenders in the world, most of them don't get good to their peaks to 26, 27, and even older than that, really. You think even to the best defenders who've come through, who really has been elite at the age of 19, 20, they're all the best defenders in the world have all going to have made mistakes.
Maldini.
Like this. Yeah, probably one of the few.
He was great. He was great at 20, but almost none. Rio Ferdinand was making so many mistakes at that age. No one had even heard of Nemanja Vidic at 19. I think he was playing.
I think John Terry was on loan at Forest, and you think of Van Dijk was probably at Celtic, maybe even still in Holland at this point. They are going to make mistakes, and you just have to bide your time with that. And I think, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And when we're, like I said earlier, we're a team where a coin toss decides a game, those mistakes are going to be a bit more highlighted than when Rio still made loads of mistakes at United when he'd been bought for £30 million. But because we were so good back then, they went under the radar a little bit more. But in general, Heaven was great. Apart from that one moment, again, that's what a defender's life is. You have one moment like that, whereas Šeško, I guess, can get away with it a little bit more, because you remember, I guess, the goal. Well, not that he actually does score goals, but
not many.
I thought Šeško generally played really, really well today, and he had a good part.
Just the finishing.
Yeah, but I think also I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here with Šeško, but he is getting in the right positions and he's getting the chances. And what we missed so much last season with Højlund is that he wasn't doing any of that. He wasn't making the right runs. He wasn't getting in the right areas. He wasn't getting the ball in the box, whereas Šeško is doing that a lot. Obviously, he just needs to score. But his link-up play was brilliant. And I thought when Xerxes came on after that, them two were really, really good together. Like the goal, obviously, with Šeško bringing it down, playing it into Xerxes and playing that pass to Cunha.
Yeah.
And that happened quite a lot. Xerxes played that ball to Šeško, and just in general, I think they also linked up for Cunha's effort there at the post as well with Dorgu. Like, yeah, you can see bright shoots with Šeško. It's just being able to score, and I think if he starts to maybe gets a couple of goals, you might see something. But again, where the team's been so mishmash and so inconsistent, and everything's again being decided on a coin flip, it's difficult to think of any momentum that's going to actually be gained anyway.
Yeah. I know that everyone doesn't agree with this, but I have high hopes for Šeško. I do think his ceiling is really high. You know, technically very, very good, quick, loves to run the channels. His finishing at Leipzig was erratic, but 2021, right? You know, in those 2 seasons, in age that is, I think he got 40 goals across those last 2 seasons or something like that. So he's the potential is there. It is just the box efficiency that's a little bit of a problem. He's getting a couple of good chances a game that he's missing, right? It feels. And obviously he's had a stop-start season. He came to the club. He hadn't had a proper pre-season. He wasn't fit. He had that injury as well. So he's been in and out and doesn't seem to have got much of a rhythm going. And obviously the personnel have changed. Cunha got injured. Mbeumo's gone off to AFCON. So that front three that we wanted to see of Cunha, Mbeumo and Šeško just hasn't happened very often. And often in this system, especially when there's 2 fullbacks at wing-back, there's not enough players around him and he's quite isolated. And I think that's partly why he looked better, and Xerxes looked better, and Cunha looked better when they were all close together for the last sort of 30 minutes of that game. Suddenly you had a coherent attack, you know, and suddenly some of the talent comes out, and it all came through in the equaliser, you know, brilliant layoff, fantastic ball from Xerxes, and a really difficult finish that Cunha made look easy. And he's got 4 goals and assists in his last 6 games. Maybe stuff is happening for him. You know, he's got the quality. We were just looking for the numbers from Cunha. And we definitely need goals from Šeško because he's going to start feeling the pressure. He's got no goals in 10 for club and country now, and 2 all season. It's obviously not good enough for a £65 million player. It's just that bit, isn't it? Which is, I know it's everything for a striker, but the rest of it is pretty good, I think.
It is, and I feel for Cunha as well, really. And obviously he got his goal today, and he had that one that was offside. He struck really, really well. I just think at times in this system, especially without Mbeumo and Ahmad, he's just so isolated. He can take the ball like a long way and carry the ball quite a distance because he's got amazing quality, strength, and speed. It's just, especially at times in that first half, he gets the ball, and like I said about Šeško, potentially getting the ball when there's no one around in 20 yards, and there's so many Leeds players just around him, and then it's like, I'm going to have to come backwards or just lose the ball or try and take it on my own and do something with it. And I think when he's looked at his best, it's been surrounded by all those best players, and when he's played really well with Mount and Mbeumo in that front three that has been there at times. I think right now you look to the team today and you're like, we're kind of relying on Cunha to do everything here in an attacking sense. He's the only person who's going to bring a bit of creativity, a little bit of a spark, a little bit of flair. Because you're thinking Dorgu, yeah, he might be able to do something, but he's not technically amazing. Šeško's in and out, and he's actually linking play really well, but not doing anything in the penalty area. You're like, well, Dalot and Shaw's nowhere near as athletic as he used to be, and Dalot's just Dalot. And obviously Casemiro and Ugarte in midfield, it's harsh on Cunha. And I think
it just goes to show how much we miss Bruno, right? I mean, all those people in the summer are like, we should sell him. I just still can't. Talking about culture wars, the most stupid one ever, that one is. I mean, you know, truly a world-class player wherever he plays, and obviously you want him close to the goal, but his numbers haven't been affected that much by playing more, in a deeper role this season. But we miss him so much. It's obvious, but he's the player who creates the most, but also the best chances, and creates from the most difficult positions. And without him, obviously our midfield is more prosaic, and we find it harder to get up the pitch. And I mean, just the one pass that Ugarte had to play through to Dorgu, and Dorgu was so disgusted with him because he just shanked it out of play, Ugarte. And look at him, and I know it's such a redundant point now. It's kind of broken record stuff, isn't it? But he runs around and kicks people, makes some tackles, and then can't pass at all. It's just the drop off in quality when he has to pass the ball is just shocking. He's gone for £50 million twice, and I'm just like, what? How's this possible? Anyway, stop moaning about him, but it was just one moment that, of course you have him in the central midfield area, and United are not going to be able to look as functional in there, as creative in there.
And if you're a Amorim in guy listening to this right now, you're probably shouting at the whatever it is you're listening to, going, well, this is the reason why we're not playing well right now. And you can make that argument right now because 100% you've got Mbeumo and Ahmed obviously at AFCON, you've got Mount out and you've got Bruno out, like 4 real players who completely changed the game if they were playing today. Mm-hmm. And you've got players like Ugarte who have been bought, Silily, and you've got players like Casemiro who's been really good this season, but again, still not what you would like in there. And then you're thinking, well, back him in January then, if you're an Amorim guy. But I just think it's just so risky to do that because you don't know if he is the success, and also because he plays this system, which is, again, a fault of Ineos for bringing him in the first place. When you were speaking earlier about, we haven't got players who play in this system or built for this system, it's so risky to just buy that wing back who you're going to potentially therefore play in a back 4 in 6 months' time when we sack the manager.
It's not even that. It's even more specific that Amorim. I think we know now. He not only is it the formation and his system and his principles. System principles often interchangeable there. But it's the profile of players. Kobbie Mainoo, and I know I keep going on about it, but, one of the most talented young midfielders has come through at United in a decade, right? Started for England in the Euros final. Cannot find a role for him in the team because he's not the right profile for him. Right? And that's just one example of many. And Amorim said it himself, I don't think I'm going to get the time or the money to make the 3-4-3 work, right? I don't know what they promised him when he came in.
I know, yeah.
You cannot have looked at United's finances and gone, yeah, absolutely, we're going to change everything in 2 or 3 windows, right? Because that's basically what he needed, right?
Yeah,
he got more than everyone was expecting last summer. Patrick Dorgu a year ago, he spent 200 and a bit million on those players. Lammers had to happen, a goalkeeper had to happen, clearly, right? So he's had something, but not everything. Was he expecting everything? I think he probably, he sounds like he was, right? And he was so tetchy in his pre-match presser when asked about, his relationship with Wilcox or whether any transfers were happening, and so maybe his expectations were out and now he's being funny about it. That's on Ineos just as much as it's on Amorim, I think, or Barada, who it appears it was his personal pick. That's why Dan Ashworth left. He was like, that's mad. Brada overruled him. Ratcliffe stepped in. Ashworth was gone. And we had the Bittersweet Symphony after that. No.
Nice.
Sorry, 90s indie reference. It's and that's the mess. And we had a lot of hopes when Ratcliffe came in that, taking operational control of the football matters, we'd get better decision making. We were told we were going to get best in class in the right roles to support the manager, put the right people around him. And what they actually did was get this, system manager and his whole team, and then not really back him to overhaul the squad because 1, they couldn't, or 2, they don't believe in him now, and that because it looked like they were keen to do the deal for Semenyo, so there's some money there, right? But they're not going to buy players just for Amorim because they clearly don't believe he's definitely the future, even if they are publicly saying he is. Because otherwise they would go out and buy a central midfielder now with that 65 million, because it's probably more of a priority than Antoine Semenyo, right?
Yeah.
And so all these things don't really fit together. Bad decision making from the top, not as bad as in the Glazers' time, but still bad, I think. A manager doesn't really fit the club history, doesn't fit the squad we've got, and an unclear path to make it right.
And I think,
and yeah, we are fifth. So,
yeah, we are fifth.
It's not all disaster, is it?
It isn't. But how long do you get stuck in this purgatory? How long do you let this continue? Because it feels like if we're just going to... Because it doesn't feel... I saw The Athletic posted an article straight after this was saying, where does this leave Amorim? But it doesn't leave him anywhere, really. It just leaves him in the same position that he was in before.
He's here until the end of the season. We can stop the week-to-week report card on him. You know, insofar as, like, is he safe? He's here till the end of the season. If he makes Europa League football, they'll think about whether they see light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. And they can't leave him as a lame duck, so they'd have to give him a new contract. That's the mistake they made with Ten Hag as well. So there'll be a big decision to make in the summer. And right now, if I was betting, I haven't looked at Polymarket this morning. I would, I'd be buying Amorim out at 60% or something right now. I think it's leaning towards that. That's not me holding up some sign in the Stretford End going Amorim out. I'm probably like you, Amorim skeptic, but not out or in really. But if I was betting like where it's heading, unless, if you don't make the Champions League, he probably earns a new contract. If they make Europa League, they'll have a think about it. If they're not in Europe, he's gone. And they'll bring someone else in, and they should throw all the money at the world at Nagelsmann, who will depart the Germany job unless he wins the World Cup, right? So that kind of thing. Yeah. I think that's where we're headed. But at the moment, it's not brilliant on the pitch. It's acceptable enough. It's 1 win in 5 in the Premier League, but it's so either competitive or there are so many flawed teams, bit of both, beyond the top 3, that United could finish anywhere from 4th to 10th, and there might be only like 5 or 6 points in it, basically.
Yeah. And I think if you'd have asked, I think you and I probably said this at the start of the season, I'd have taken 6th or 7th. And I think actually looking at the table, I think we will finish 6th. And I think that therefore it all depends on how we see how it goes for the next 5 months until May. Because what I would have hoped to have seen more by this point in the season, even though we're in 5th, is more progress. And I knew there was always going to be inconsistency because of certain situations, like our players going to AFCON or our play all of, especially the front 3 that we've all bought. There were always going to be teething problems with that. But you want to see like progress in terms of patterns of play. You want to see progress in terms of chance creation. You want to see progress in terms of like a defensive ability and structure and solidness, and also like competitiveness and fight in every game, which was very apparent and present today, but wasn't in midweek when we started so lethargically against the bottom team. Like that game, strip away all of the philosophy and the system and the principles, literally just starting with the right mentality would have won us that game in midweek. And I think that's where I'm really falling down on Amorim, and also just how he speaks and how he communicates in the press also just doesn't impress me. His subs don't impress me. And that's the thing. Like you can be like scoreboard journalism about this and go, yeah, we've got 5th. And I said at the start of the season, I'd have taken 6th or 7th. But if this is going to be the way it's going to be for the next 5 months and it's just the same old, and we don't see progress, and we don't see a real uptick in consistency in class when the players come back from AFCON and we get our players back from injury and we maybe make a signing or two. If we don't see any progress then I just think, like you say, what is the point? We're just going to be in purgatory again, and next season's going to start, and when we might make a couple of signings for Amorim, and then we start in August and it's exactly the same. Like, what's to say if we don't see any progress over the next 5 months that in August, after a couple more signings, it's all hunky-dory? Because that's 18 months then, and 2 full pre-seasons. I just don't see how it would be any different.
No, it's hard. You have to take a leap of faith, and after 60-something games, that leap of faith makes less sense, doesn't it? You know, because you start having a body of evidence, and the body of evidence says this is not particularly good football, right? You know, at its best, there are moments, but it's not been good for 90 minutes ever. And that cannot be down to solely the players, right? If the idea is that United only get better by buying new players, then it literally could be any coach in there, right? I don't think that is an argument for Amorim at all.
Yeah,
I don't see him having ever made more than the sum of the parts. And the reason why that has happened is because he was so dogmatic for basically a year about playing this formation with his principles, whether it fit the players he had in the squad and the profile of players and where they want to play or what they wanted at all, right? And that bit is on him, you know, even if he didn't get all the players he wanted, and Ineos made probably an odd decision by hiring him in the first place. So I can't see, you know, like whether we finish fourth, which everyone go, yay, massive success and overperformance, or we finish eighth. And as I said, you know, probably not too many points between those places by the end of the season, by the looks of it. I don't know that, you know, 1 or 2 points here or there, although the result may be a success if we get into those European places, whether it really says that we're really moving forward, you know, in exactly the right direction we want. Maybe he's just a bridge, right? And a pretty dangerous bridge with holes in it. But maybe he's just a bridge to someone else who is the next person is the one that will take us forward, like more clearly, with a system that makes sense for this club and this league and these players. Because you cannot swap 20 players out every single time you get a new manager. And that was the whole point. That was the whole point of bringing Ashworth, then Wilcox into these roles, that it would be top-down, club vision, club style first. Ratcliffe said it. Did it in that interview with Dan Roan, didn't he? Right at the beginning of his takeover. And it felt like they threw that all out, you know? But if it's going to be that, then it has to be that, right? And they just found themselves in a weird position with Amorim. And yeah, it could end up, we could end up in the Champions League. I mean, it's there. The prize is there, isn't it? You know, if all the players come back and they can stay fit, and so on and so on and so on, there'll be, by the time Mbeumo and Ahmad get back and Bruno's fit again, it'll be the end of January. We'll have 15, 16 games left and hopefully a cup run, maybe a cup run, depending on what happens next week. You know, the prize is there.
Kraft Mac and Cheese is better than 90s hip-hop. We'll remind you of your childhood without making you feel incredibly old. Kraft Mac and Cheese. Best thing ever.
The prize is there, and it also will be a real damning indictment on Amorim if we don't get there, really. Because you look at the competitors out there, they're all pretty weak. Like Chelsea have obviously just got rid of their manager. Liverpool are massively up and down. Newcastle are just not that good, and then the other teams below that are just nowhere near as good as what we should be and potentially what we are. And you also look to teams like even Palace, who are up there. They've got Europe. Newcastle have got Europe. Chelsea have got Europe. Liverpool have got Europe. We don't have that, so therefore we should be the team that is the team who's going to take that fifth place. And you also look to the squads that teams have below us. Even to someone like Newcastle, I think on paper, their team isn't. They've got a better midfield for sure, but then their attackers, I think I'd have ours over theirs. Defensively, I'd probably take our boys over theirs as well, and keeper, I'd have our keeper as well. Someone like that, someone like Newcastle, we should be finishing above, I think. And it just, I think, is going to be, if we can find, some rhythm and consistency. And you talk about him being a bridge. I just don't know what he's a bridge to. That's the problem. Yeah. I don't know. And it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I think I am not the arbiter of truth and what is right with football, but I just want to see him do something that in my head feels like the right decision and make the right decision or say the right thing. And that's, I guess, what we all as football fans, that's how we make judgments, right? That if we see a manager bring on a sub and we think, oh yeah, that's what I would have done, or we see the team at the start and we think, yeah, that's what I would have done, or he says something and you think, oh, that's what I would have done, or even not even just something I would have done, something is better than what I would have thought of, and you think, oh wow, that's a really good move. That's how I guess make my judgments in football. And when I watch Amorim, I don't feel that very often. When I watch him make a sub, like today, yeah, it's the right sub that he made, but it's not the formation I would have gone at the start. And usually when he makes sub, I'm like, oh, that's not what I would have done. It feels a weird move to make that. And obviously during the Newcastle game, like every single decision he made in the second half felt like the wrong decision to me. And then he says something in the press conference, like, these are why I'm making the judgments, because everything kind of feels a bit like, I don't know if you're reading the game right at this point. I don't know if you're reading the room right at this point. I don't know if you're making the right judgments. And yeah, I just hope that for the next 5 months, he either makes what I perceive as the right judgments, or we just end up getting better. And therefore I can't disagree with the results and the performances on the pitch.
Well, that's the ultimate seal of approval, isn't it? Tom Mortimer. Yay or nay.
There we go. I'm sure everyone's the same though, right?
Oh, absolutely. We've all got opinions. None of them really matter. The people that matter are at the club, and so whatever we say, it's throwaway, isn't it? But, all right. Well, United currently 5th, and we'll see how the City, Chelsea, Sunderland games get on later in the day. So when you're listening to this, we may be 6th, I suppose, or not a disaster yet. Burnley next week, big opportunity. Every time we say there's a big opportunity, we seem to drop points. They are not very good, Burnley. They beaten by Brighton yesterday, lost against Newcastle. Can't remember when the last time they actually won a game was. Not recently. Anyway, they had a horrendous run through December, November, didn't they? Yeah. Right now, you'd say they're, aside from Wolves, second favourite for the drop.
Yeah.
Turf Moor is not what it was under Sean Dyche. Opportunity is there.
Yeah.
Opportunity to go for it is there as well.
I would love it if he started with 4 at the back. I'm going to be so annoyed when he starts with 5.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the Wolves one was shocking. You're like, what? Seven defensive players on the pitch against Wolves. Wolves. Yeah, I mean, it will shock no one if he goes with 5 defenders at the back and Ugarte and Casemiro sitting in front of them. Obviously, I don't know what the change. Maybe Xerxes has bought himself a place in the side. Unless the thing with Roma happens, of course. I guess United are reluctant to let him go without a fee and without players back from AFCON or players back from injury, which you can kind of understand, even if he's not long for the club, honestly, whether it's now or in the summer, he's going to leave, obviously, but maybe he's bought himself a place in the side. Does that mean Dorgu goes back to left wing back? Yoro drops out, and we go back to Martinez, Heaven, Shaw, back 3, something like that. Can Casemiro play a full 90 again? Because we've got the cup game the weekend afterwards. He's not good playing 3 games in a week, especially not if he's completing games.
When I saw Xerxes on the bench today, I thought he's gone, because this was the moment when you're either going to trust him or just get rid of him, right? Like a game where we're going to play 7 defensive players and, 8 defensive players and 2 attacking players, basically, with Dorgu playing in one of the front 3 positions. And you think, and I think if you wanted to risk and you wanted to go attacking today and you wanted to be front foot, you would have played Xerxes. But it feels like he trusts him that little that it was a sign that he was going to go. But then, like you say, he potentially plays himself into the team. I wouldn't be surprised if he went this month and we potentially signed someone else. I just feel like if you've got 11 senior players fit, outfield players fit, and he's the 12th one, or he's the 11th one. He's the one on the bench. I think that's just a terrible sign. Even when you're playing basically a wing back in a 10 position ahead of you. I mean, when else are you really going to get the chance apart from potentially after a nice 30-minute cameo? But it's not great, and I think that there was a reason for him being on the bench, because he was pretty poor against Wolves. He was even worse against Newcastle. Yeah, if you're not going to play him, then when are you going to play him? And you think probably in midweek. I don't know. I just think he'd probably start the same team as he started today.
Yeah, against Wolves, he argued that he had to go with 5 at the back because Wolves were doing the same thing. Burnley have mostly played with 5 at the back this season. He's probably going to want to match up and we'll play down to their level or something like that. That's the fear, I guess. Burnley, who contain Kyle Walker, the population of Burnley increasing by the minute. They've changed their squad, obviously, just massively. It always happens when the team drops out and goes into the Championship. Everyone is sold. And so there are not many players left over from the Sean Dyche era, or if any, honestly. I think is Broha fit at the moment? He was on loan from Chelsea. He's on loan from Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. His career's gone a bit south because I think when he was 18, 19, everyone was assuming he was going to be a great player, and he's not turned out that way.
No, not at all. Yeah, they're they're not a weird team. They're just quite a poor, weak team. They're not particularly great physically. Turf Moor, like you say, isn't what it used to be. It's not like an Ellen Roads. They haven't got the greatest manager in Scott Parker either. They're just a bit of one of those teams that just come up who's just pretty poor. And we'll probably end up going there and drawing after they go 1-0 up or something.
Well, yeah, we'll see. All right, it doesn't sound like any players will be back. Maybe Matthias de Ligt has been training. Apparently, Kobbie Mainoo is close to being on the grass if he's not on the grass already. Yeah, I mean, just still, again, big opportunity. Every time we say this, dropping points. You know, we'd taken points against West Ham and Everton and Bournemouth and maybe more today, although, you know, maybe we feel differently about this one. We would be comfortably chasing a Champions League spot. That is not the case because we're deeply inconsistent. And as a result, I couldn't tell you what kind of performance we'll get. You know, it's really hard to say we're going to... Yeah, it's just you don't know what United you're going to get. It's really very good for 90 minutes, though, truthfully. It would be nice to put in a real performance, wouldn't it, against a crap team? Just bully them. No doubts. 4 at the back. Remember that time when United fans chanted 4-4-2 at Louis van Gaal, where it was like... Yeah. Maybe a bit of that.
I think I felt today I would have been stunned if we'd won today, and I feel I'm not quite as... I wouldn't be quite as stunned if we won on in midweek, but I'm so low about this team right now, just generally, and also just because of the personnel that are available today. I just feel it's going to be a coin toss again. I feel like it's just going to be a game of small margins. If our individual quality can potentially beat their luck, I think that's what it's going to come down to. And yeah, potentially if Seshko, but I just don't. The problem is I just don't see us creating that many chances. That's why I'm always so down about us at the moment, because we just don't create that much.
At least not high XG chances.
No, not really. And yeah, Seshko had a couple of chances today, and it was that great header where the keeper made a really good save. But there's so few and far between, and they also feel like they come about randomly. It's not from like that particular pattern of play which we've tried so many times, and then that chance comes. That's why I just feel so down, and we've got also a penchant for making a silly mistake in defence. Just a moment where we switch off, and playing away from home doesn't help with that. And also, just the players we've got out, I'm missing that individual quality. I am just so down. I know it's probably not what you want to hear at the end of a podcast, but that's how I feel.
All right, well, can I give it a positive spin? The chances there, lads. Go for it. It'd be nice if we signed some... Dropped 80 or 90 million on Elliot Anderson and dropped him into the team. Wouldn't that be good? It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. It sounded from Ruben's press conference that he's not going to get any more players. We're going to have to go with what we got. And if this is it and there's no new players back from injury, then we're going to get the same unless we get a change. And we saw the change at the back end of today's game. Maybe that's the light. Maybe Ruben will see it and we can just go for this game, because go for this against Burnley. Just go for it. Be more attacking. Get more players in and around Sesko. Let the highest quality players we've got do their stuff in the final third. The chance is there. Don't need to be scared of this one. Obviously. And obviously, as mad, away at Burnley, they've just come up from the Championship. It's Manchester United, folks. Fuck's sake.
We've got to take so much more risks. We've drawn 7 games in the league this season. Losing out on a point to try and gain 3 is fine if you're going for it, and we get caught, fine. Just go for it a little bit more. It's just so obvious. But like you say, get more players in that final third. Get more players around Cunha so you can make something happen with a couple of 2-touch, nice little 1-2s around, which he's so good at. And Šeško's so good at linking players. And Xerxes looked really good when he had players around him today. And Dorgu, if he's further forward, he can get him in behind if he's got players to link up with. And then also, because this is the thing with 3 at the back, when you've got wing backs, that you can just play with full backs high up, so therefore they can add to the attack as well. They don't just have to be wing backs. That's the only time they can attack. It's really not that difficult. And I'm hoping that Amorim won't be as stubborn as we've seen for 12 months, and he actually will change it a little bit. Here we go. Come on.
All right, we'll see on that rallying call, sort of. Tom, if you're watching on YouTube, he's wearing his 1990s Hungary jacket. He's got a full-on porn star mustache on and a mullet. It's a great look. Will it be a great look for United in midweek? Let's hope so. Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
Listeners, check us out on patreon.com/NQATpod for the extra pods. You'll find me on Substack. I will write something. We'll probably go along the lines of just play 4-4-2 for fuck's sake, Ruben, or something like that. It's not a great headline, to be honest, for SEO purposes. But we'll catch you all after the Burnley game. And probably the Tactics pod on Monday as well. Thanks a lot.